He was all in, texting you every day, making plans, looking at you like you were the only person in the room, and then, nothing, he disappeared, and you're sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? Here's what I need you to understand right now. You didn't do anything wrong. What happened has almost nothing to do with you, and everything to do with him. I'm Matthew Hussey, and for over 15 years, I've worked with millions of people on their love lives, and this question, why men pull away after getting close, is the one I get asked more than almost any other. Because it's confusing, it's painful, and it makes no logical sense. You had something real, you felt it, he felt it, and then he ran. Today, I'm going to explain the exact psychological reasons why this happens. Not the surface level stuff you've heard before, the deep psychology, the stuff that's actually running the show beneath his conscious awareness, and I'm going to show you what to do about it, because understanding this isn't just about him. It's about protecting your peace, your power, and your ability to recognize the men who are actually ready for you. Let's go. The setup first. Let me paint you a picture. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You meet a guy, there's chemistry, he's interested, really interested. He's texting, he's calling, he wants to see you, he's making an effort. You start spending time together. The connection deepens. You're having real conversations. He's opening up. You're opening up, it feels significant. Maybe you sleep together, maybe you don't, but there's intimacy, emotional intimacy, and then, overnight, it changes. The texts slow down, the plans become vague, he's busy, he's going through something, he needs space, and you're standing there thinking, what just happened? The confusion here is what makes this so painful. It doesn't make sense. Everything was going well, better than well. You weren't imagining it. The connection was real, so your brain does what it's designed to do. It looks for an explanation, and because we're wired to look inward first, you start asking, did I come on too strong? Did I say something wrong? Was I too available? Should I have waited longer to sleep with him? And you start replaying every conversation, every text, every moment, looking for the thing you did that caused him to leave. But here's the truth, you're looking in the wrong place. What's really happening when a man pulls away after getting close? It's almost never about something you did. It's about something that's happening inside him. Think about it this way. If you're walking through a beautiful garden, enjoying yourself, everything's perfect, and then suddenly you turn around and run away. Is it because the garden did something wrong? No, something inside you got triggered. A memory, a fear, a wound. That's what's happening with him. The closeness itself, the thing you think should make him want more, is actually the thing that's scaring him, not because there's anything wrong with closeness, but because of what closeness represents to him. How men are wired differently now. I need to be clear about something. Men and women are both human. We all want love. We all want connection. We all crave intimacy. But we're socialized differently, and that creates different psychological patterns. From the time boys are young, they're taught, directly and indirectly, that vulnerability is weakness, that needing someone is dependency, that emotions should be controlled, managed, hidden. Boys don't cry, man up, don't be soft. These aren't just phrases, they're programming, and they run deep. So when a man starts getting close to you, when he starts feeling things he hasn't felt in a long time, or maybe ever it activates something primal inside him, not excitement, not relief, fear. The vulnerability paradox, here's the paradox, the very thing that creates deep connection. Vulnerability is the thing many men are most terrified of. Why? Because vulnerability means being seen, really seen. Not the version of himself he's carefully constructed, but the real him, with all his fears, his insecurities, his wounds. And if you see that, and then you leave, it confirms his deepest fear, that he's not enough. So instead of moving closer and risking that pain, His brain does what it thinks is the safer thing. It makes him pull back first. The autonomy trigger, there's another layer here. Men are deeply wired for autonomy, for independence, for feeling like they're in control of their own lives. Again, this isn't biological destiny. It's social conditioning, but it's real. When a relationship starts to feel like it's consuming his sense of self, when he feels like he's losing his independence, his freedom, his identity, something inside him rebels, even if he loves you, even if he wants the relationship. Because the need for autonomy isn't rational, it's primal, and when he starts to feel like he's losing himself, he pulls away to reclaim that sense of self. The timing factor here's something most people miss. The intensity of the connection is often proportional to the intensity of the fear. If you had a mediocre connection, he probably wouldn't have pulled away, because there was nothing to be afraid of. It wasn't threatening, but when the connection is real, when it's deep, when it's the kind of connection that could actually change his life, that's when the fear kicks in, because now the stakes are real. Now there's something to lose. Now he has to confront the question, am I ready for this? And for many men, the honest answer is no, not because of you, because of him. Let me tell you about David. David was 34 when I met him. Successful, charming, great on paper, but he had a pattern. He'd meet someone, fall hard, spend every moment with her for 3 to 4 months. And then, like clockwork, he'd disappear. When I asked him why, he said, I don't know. I just wake up one day and feel trapped. So we dug deeper. Turns out David's mother was loving but controlling. Everything he did was managed, monitored, commented on. He grew up feeling suffocated, like he couldn't breathe without someone watching. As an adult, the moment a relationship started to feel serious, his nervous system interpreted it as danger. Not consciously, he didn't think, this woman reminds me of my mother, but his body remembered and it reacted. Attachment styles explained in psychology. We talk about attachment styles, and they're formed in childhood based on how our caregivers responded to our needs. Secure attachment, your needs were consistently met. You learned that closeness is safe, that people are reliable, that you can depend on others without losing yourself. Anxious attachment, your needs were inconsistently met. Sometimes your caregiver was there, sometimes they weren't. You learned to cling, to seek constant reassurance, because you never knew if love would be there tomorrow. Avoidant attachment, your needs were often dismissed or ignored. You learned that depending on others leads to disappointment, so you learned to be self-reliant, to avoid needing anyone. Guess which attachment style is most likely to pull away after getting close? Avoidant. The avoidant pattern men with avoidant attachment aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect themselves. In their experience, getting close means getting hurt. Needing someone means being let down. Opening up means being rejected. So they've built walls, high walls, and they've gotten very good at keeping people at arm's length. But here's the thing about walls. They don't just keep pain out. They keep love out too. So when you come along, someone who's kind, who's genuine, who actually wants to know him, part of him wants to let you in, but another part of him, the wounded part, is screaming, danger, abort, get out, and that's the part that wins. The trigger moment, there's usually a specific moment when the pulling away starts. For some men, it's when you say, I love you. For others, it's when you start talking about the future. For others, it's when you meet his friends or family, when the relationship becomes real, in a social sense. These moments are what I call commitment triggers. They're the moments when the relationship shifts from casual to serious, from fun to consequential, from low stakes to high stakes. And for a man who's afraid of vulnerability, who's terrified of losing himself, who's carrying an attachment wound, these moments feel like a trap closing. not because of anything you did, because of what they represent. The idealization phase, here's another psychological pattern at play: idealization and devaluation. In the beginning, everything is new, everything is exciting. You're not a real person yet, you're a fantasy. The idea of you, the projection of you, he sees what he wants to see, the good parts, the chemistry, the possibility, and in that phase, there's no fear because it's not real yet. But then, as you get closer, something shifts. You become a real person with needs, with expectations, with a life that might require something from him, and suddenly the fantasy collides with reality. The pedestal crash. Let me give you an example. Jake met Sarah at a wedding. They talked all night. He was smitten. He told his friends, "I've never met anyone like her." For the first 2 months, he was all in, thoughtful, attentive, romantic. Then Sarah got sick. Nothing serious, just the flu, but she asked Jake if he could bring her some soup. And in that moment, something in Jake shut down, because now Sarah wasn't the cool, fun, carefree woman from the wedding. She was a real person who needed him, and that felt heavy. The projection problem. Here's the truth. When a man pulls away suddenly, it's often because he realizes you're not who he thought you were. Not because you misrepresented yourself, but because he was never seeing you in the first place. He was seeing his projection, his fantasy, his idea of what he wanted you to be. And when reality sets in, when you have bad days, when you have needs, when you're human, it shatters the illusion. And instead of adjusting his expectations and seeing you as you really are, he retreats, because the real you requires something the fantasy didn't: actual effort, actual presence, actual love, and that's scarier than being alone. The imposter syndrome, there's another layer we need to talk about, and it's one men rarely admit out loud. Deep down, many men don't believe they're worthy of the love you're offering. They look at you, smart, beautiful, emotionally available, and they think, she's too good for me. Not in a humble way, in a terrified way, because if you're too good for him, then it's only a matter of time before you figure that out and leave. So he leaves first. The preemptive strike, think about it from his perspective. You're getting close. He's starting to care, really care, maybe even love you, but there's a voice in his head saying, this won't last. You're going to screw this up. She's going to see who you really are and leave. And that fear is unbearable. So instead of waiting for the inevitable heartbreak, he pulls away. It's a preemptive strike, a way to protect himself from the pain he believes is coming anyway. The success paradox, ironically, this often happens with men who are successful in other areas of their lives. They're confident at work. They're good at what they do. They've achieved things, but in relationships, they feel lost, incompetent, out of their depth, because success in relationships requires a completely different skill set. It requires vulnerability, emotional intelligence, the ability to navigate conflict and discomfort, and if he's never developed those skills, no amount of professional success will make him feel secure in love. Stop making it about you first, and most importantly, stop making his fear about your worth. I know that's easier said than done. When someone pulls away, it's natural to internalize it, to think, if I were prettier, smarter, more interesting, he would have stayed. But that's not how this works. His fear isn't a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his capacity. You could be the most incredible person in the world, and if he's not ready, he's not ready. The you can't save him principle, here's a hard truth. You cannot love someone into readiness. You cannot be patient enough, understanding enough, perfect enough to make him work through his fears. That's work he has to do himself, and I know you want to be the exception, the one who breaks through, the one who proves that love can heal anything. But love doesn't heal wounds. Self-awareness does. Therapy does. Personal work does. Love can inspire someone to do that work, but it can't do the work for them. The green flag test. So, how do you know if a man is actually ready for you? Here's the test. Does he move toward discomfort or away from it? When things get real, does he lean in or pull back? When conflict arises, does he want to talk it through or shut down? When you express a need, does he try to meet it or make you feel like you're asking for too much? Because emotional maturity isn't about never feeling fear. It's about feeling the fear and choosing connection anyway. A man who's ready for you will feel the vulnerability and stay. A man who's not will feel the vulnerability and run. What to do when he pulls away? So what do you actually do when this happens? First, give him space, but don't chase. I'm not talking about playing games. I'm talking about respecting his process while respecting yourself. If he needs space, let him have it, but don't sit around waiting, texting, trying to fix it. Second, have one clear conversation. If he's pulled back, you're allowed to ask why. Once, hey, I've noticed you've been distant lately. If you need space, I understand, but I need to know where we stand. Clear, direct, no drama. Third, watch what he does, not what he says. If he says he needs space but then comes back consistently, present and engaged, he's working through something. If he says he needs space and then breadcrumbs you, texts just enough to keep you on the hook but never actually shows up, he's not coming back. He's keeping you as an option. Fourth, decide what you're willing to tolerate. How long are you willing to wait? What behavior are you willing to accept? Because here's the thing, you deserve someone who's sure about you. Not someone who's confused, not someone who's figuring it out, and not someone who needs 6 months to decide if they want a relationship. You deserve someone who feels lucky to be with you, who shows up, who does the work. Anything less is a compromise you'll regret. The brutal truth, here's what I need you to hear. If he wanted to be with you, he would be. I know that's harsh, but it's also liberating. Because it means you can stop analyzing, stop wondering, stop trying to decode his behavior. If a man wants you, he finds a way. He works through his fear, he leans in, he makes it happen. If he doesn't, he makes excuses. And you don't want someone who sees you as something to overcome. You want someone who sees you as someone to fight for. Why this keeps happening, if this pattern keeps showing up in your life, if you keep attracting men who pull away, there's something deeper to look at. And I'm not saying this to blame you. I'm saying this to empower you, because sometimes we're drawn to unavailable people because, on some level, we're unavailable too. Maybe you're afraid of real intimacy. Maybe you're more comfortable with the chase than the relationship. Maybe you're replaying an old wound, trying to prove you're worthy of love. I've seen this 1,000 times. Someone says, "Why do I keep meeting emotionally unavailable men?" And when we dig deeper, we realize they're not just meeting them, they're choosing them because available men feel boring, predictable, too easy, and unavailable men feel exciting, challenging, worth winning. But that's not love, that's a pattern, breaking the pattern. So how do you break it? First, get honest with yourself. What are you actually afraid of? Not what you think you should be afraid of. What are you really afraid of? Intimacy, being seen, being loved, and then having it taken away. Second, notice who you're drawn to and ask why. When you meet someone new, what pulls you in? Is it stability and presence, or is it chemistry and potential? Because chemistry can be a red flag. It can be your nervous system recognizing a familiar pattern, even if that pattern hurts you. Third, start choosing differently. This is the hard part, because it means giving a chance to people who don't immediately ignite that spark. People who are steady, consistent, available, and at first it might feel like something's missing because your brain is used to the roller coaster, but over time you'll realize peace isn't boring. It's precious. The man who's ready hears what a man who's ready looks like. He's consistent. He doesn't disappear for days and then come back with an excuse. He's curious about you. He asks questions. He remembers things, he wants to know you, he makes plans, not vague let's hang out sometime plans, real plans with dates and times. He integrates you into his life, he introduces you to his friends. He includes you in his world, he communicates when something's wrong, he talks about it. He doesn't shut down or ghost, and most importantly, he doesn't make you guess. You know where you stand, you know how he feels. You're not decoding texts or analyzing behavior, because he's clear, he's present, he's all in. That's the standard. Anything less is settling. Look, here's what I want you to take away from this. When a man pulls away after getting close, it's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his readiness, and that's not something you can fix. It's not something you can change. It's not something you should have to manage. Your job isn't to make him ready. Your job is to recognize when he's not and walk away. Because you don't want to be someone's maybe. You don't want to be someone's someday. You don't want to be the person he's working up to. You want to be someone's hell yes. And that person exists. But you'll never find them if you're still trying to convince someone else to choose you. So let him go. Let him work through whatever he needs to work through, and trust that if he's meant to be in your life, he'll come back ready. And if he doesn't, someone better will. Someone who sees your value and doesn't run from it. Someone who's done the work and knows what they want. Someone who's ready for you, and that person is worth waiting for. I'm Matthew Hussey. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.